Hello, my name is Ryan Mosser. That is one of my best friends, David Cahoon, and this is the Commissioner's Couch Fantasy Football Podcast. Welcome back, everyone. Another Thursday night, another off-season deep dive, another chance for us to keep building out one of the most detailed draft cycles anywhere in fantasy football. Last week we kicked off our wide receiver coverage with 6 incredibly different, incredibly fascinating prospects, and the response from all you guys was unbelievable. Over 600 views just on Twitter, let alone all over every platform now. A lot of views as well. The that's conversations, awesome. The questions, the debates, that's exactly why we do this. And here we are, episode 17 overall, week 4 of season 2. And we're staying right here in the wide receiver room because this class, I think, is too good, too deep, and too layered to rush through. So, if last week was about establishing the foundation, this week is about expanding the picture. We're adding 6 more names to the board, 6 more evaluations built through the same rubric, the same process, the same trait-based system that we've been refining for years. And just like last week, these guys, couldn't be more different. You've got explosive athletes, long strider technicians, matchup nightmares, and players who win in ways that force you to rethink how they fit into NFL offenses. That's what makes this class so fun. Every profile tells a different story. Every skill set solves a different problem, and every evaluation adds another layer to how we understand the 2026 draft. Tonight we're breaking down the following wide receivers: Barian Brown, wide receiver from LSU. Jacoby Lane from USC, Zachariah Branch from Georgia, Elijah Surratt from Indiana, Chris Bell from Louisville, and Omar Cooper from Indiana. 6 more receivers, 6 archetypes, 6 more chances to peel back the details and figure out what exactly translates on Sundays. So settle in, grab a drink, get comfortable on the commissioner's couch because episode 17 is officially underway and it's time to talk wide receivers again.
Let's go. Oh man, dude, I am so excited. I love this draft class of wide receivers. They're so fun to watch. There's so many different flavors, so many different styles. It's a good time, man.
Yeah.
So, how you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you? I've had a long week.
I'm good. I also had a long week, but it is spring break where I work, so I am a little smooth sailing into the weekend, hopefully.
Nice. Yeah. Hallie went back to work into the office this week. So I've had 3 days by myself with the 2 toddlers and the newborn. So We're surviving, man.
We're making it.
It's fun. It's a nice break to talk fantasy football for sure. So
yeah, absolutely.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Before we get into anything, I just want to say that we are brought to you by the Inside Edge Network at Inside Edge Net and also Alley Rose Fragrances. Our network sponsor for Inside Edge Network is Alley Rose Fragrances. Discover Alley Rose collection of handcrafted candles and body mist made with clean, minimal ingredients. Every product is thoughtfully created in small batches, free from harmful toxins for mindful everyday indulgence. Head over to AlleyRoseFragrances.com right now to order and use our special promo code Inside Edge 20, capital I, capital E, to receive special discounts. We are also brought to you by Monster Moments Photography. They're a husband and wife wedding photography team based out of Cleveland who specialize in providing the best wedding photos in Northeast Ohio. Check out their website at monstermomentsphotography.com. That's MOSSOR, momentsphotography.com. Also, real quick, David, I just want to bring up that, guys, if you want to support the show, the best thing you can do is hit our socials and jump into the community. We're on Twitter. We're now on TikTok and Instagram at The Commish Couch and on Facebook under The Commissioner's Couch Podcast. Every one of those pages has our website linked pinned to it, thecommissionerscouch.podbean.com. And that link takes you straight to our hub where you can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, Boomplay, and the Podbean app. Tap the platforms you use, follow the show, subscribe. Please leave a 5-star rating, drop a review, turn on notifications, and set up episode downloads for auto. Also, please again follow us on all socials at the Commish Couch, and please show us some love. Those little actions add up in a huge way for us, and they help us continue to grow this show. So we would really appreciate it.
Yes, that is huge, and I'm so excited that we're on these platforms now.
Finally, about time. Let's go.
So hard to get there, and it's really exciting. So yeah, please give us a follow.
Definitely.
All right. So before we jump in, I gotta get your full understanding of everything that happened football-wise this past few days, because there was a lot. Let's start with Max Crosby and the Ravens. Happened.
Oh my gosh! You want to know what happened? The Ravens are scumbags.
They are though. They're
absolute
slimy.
Scumbags.
Sleazy.
They went into this knowing that exactly what you get in Max Crosby, especially after his surgery. To cop out as the meniscus isn't. Of course, it's not. But that eventually, with a couple weeks, with time, he's going to heal and be the Max Crosby that he was. The fact that they obviously saw that Trey Henderson was on the market, they reneged on their trade, and kept their 2 first-round picks and just signed a guy that's not necessarily comparable, but pretty close. So, and that's just so, especially 3 days after the deal is already done, after the Raiders signed Tyler Lindenbaum and all these other free agents.
Wow, Max Crosby's in your building.
So scummy, bro. Insane.
It's so bad. And I like, my frustration is like, they're not going to make that type of renegotiation and back out unless they know for certain they're getting Trey Hendrickson. And so it is just slimy and like just gross all around. It's like if a guy was already engaged to somebody, already proposed, planning the wedding, but then decided, you know what? No, I'm going to actually go and get engaged to this other person that I was seeing on the side. Like, it's really disgusting and gross, and I hate all of it. And I hope that the Ravens never make a deal with anybody else in the NFL because of how just gross and disgusting and untrustworthy it really is. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can blow smoke up our butts all you want. I mean, the obvious motive was, you saw Henderson out there, or Trey Henderson out there, and you decided, you know what? Why are we giving up our 2 first-round picks when we can get a guy that we just signed to money? There was no intention of teaming those guys up together, which they allege. There was no way that was going to work with the cap. They are blatantly lying to us, and that's what pisses me off the most. So
it is gross, and this isn't the first time that they've done it either. Like, you can go back to Michael Crabtree in 2018. There was another guy before that, I forget who. I think it was a running back, but yeah, they're just, that whole organization is just disgusting, and all that they do is steal. They stole the Browns back in 99 or 93, and now they're stealing other players, and just gross.
I say 99, man. Yeah. All right, let's pivot. As we roll into our second week of wide receiver evaluations, it's a good time to look back at where we left off. Last Thursday, we opened up this position group with a bang, breaking down, like I said, 6 very different players who helped set the tone for how deep and diverse this class really is. We covered Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion, and Chris Brazel out of Tennessee. A group that showcased everything from polished route craft to, vertical juice to, boundary toughness. That first wave gave us a real sense of the top tier and, laid the groundwork for everything that we're going to be doing tonight. So, and because, we know how we've got listeners jumping in every week. It's worthy to touch on how these evaluations actually work. As most of you know, I've talked about it for the past few weeks. I've been working on an algorithm that helps me rank these prospects. As I watch film on them, my rankings aren't built on box scores, hype cycles, or recruiting stars. They come from full trait-based grading system that I've built over years of studying what translates to the NFL. It's all about separation, leverage, processing, finishing ability, functional athleticism, and how a player's role, in college projects to a professional offense. Every category has layers. Every core, is tied to, what wins on Sundays. And that context matters, especially for people joining us for the first time, because it explains why some of my rankings might look different from the consensus. Now, tonight's group is where things get really interesting. These 6 receivers make up the second tier of the class, players who may not have, the same spotlight as last week's names, but absolutely have the traits to carve out real NFL roles. Some of them are ascending talents, some are, matchup specific weapons, and some are just waiting for the right system to unlock what, they do best. This is the part of the evaluation process where you start, finding the guys who become steals, who become sleepers, and long-term contributors as well. And honestly, this is where the fun, I think, really kicks in, because these players force you to dig deeper, to look past the surface, to understand usage, to study their traits, how, how they fit into modern offenses, and they're not finished products, but they're fascinating pieces for sure. And breaking them down is where we get to show exactly where this wide receiver class is one of the most compelling groups in the entire 2026 class, in my opinion. So let's get into it. Let's do some receivers. What do you say, Dave?
Dude, I'm so ready. This group that we've got today is really, really fun, and I think you and I are going to agree on some people and disagree on others, and it's going to be really
just wait. Just wait.
All right, shall we get into the first one?
Let's do it.
Number 1.
I love the transitions, David. David's been tinkering with them. So number 1 is Barian Brown, wide receiver out of LSU. He's my personal wide receiver 5. That is probably very high compared to a very high compared to a lot of other boards that you might see. But I love him translating to the NFL. 6'1", 180. He ran a 4.40 at 40 time at the combine. His measurables archetype. Barian Brown brings a lean, twitchy build. Tailored for space-driven roles. 6'1", he's roughly 180. He carries a light frame with long limbs that help him play bigger than his listed weight. His reach allows him to extend beyond his body and finish away from his chest, and his stride length pairs with his burst to stretch cushion in a hurry. I think he fits the mold of a modern slot Z hybrid, someone you move around the formation to manufacture mismatches, stretch the field, and punish defenses that overplay the run or sit in static coverage. He's not built to live as a pure boundary receiver, but as a space creator and a vertical stressor. I think he's exactly what today's offenses are looking for in the NFL. Excuse me. Background. Barian Brown first made noise at Kentucky, where his speed showed up immediately on offense and in the return game. I've had him on my C2C college to Canton. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today. Fantasy football league where basically you just draft college guys and all the way through the NFL. It's a big process, but I have loved Barian Brown for years, guys. Even in an offense that wasn't always tailored at Kentucky to his strengths, he consistently flashed the kind of acceleration and open field juice that forces defensive coordinators to adjust to him for sure. His move to LSU dropped him into a more aggressive, explosive passing structure, and you can see his role expand more, more motion, more vertical shots, more opportunities, to attack leverage. Coaches from both stops have praised his competitiveness, his willingness to work, the way he presents, I can't talk. The way his presence alone changes how defensive align. The path from Kentucky to LSU helped him sharpen not just his athletic traits, but his understanding of spacing, timing, and how to weaponize his speed within a system as well. His game is built on urgency and stress. From the snap, he's attacking angles, whether that's pushing vertically, building across the field, or flashing horizontally on motion, jets, stuff like that. Defenders feel his speed immediately. I understand, he ran a 4.40 at the combine. I'm telling you, his on the field speed is much faster than that. And 4.40 is nothing, it's still very fast.
It's still very fast. Yeah. 4.40 real fast.
Safeties, widen or deepen when he's on the field. Corners bail earlier. Underneath windows open for the rest of the offense, just with his presence on the field. With the ball in the air, he's more controlled than his frame might suggest. He tracks deep throws with poise. He can adjust late and doesn't panic when the ball is arriving over his shoulder. Once the ball is in his hands, he turns into a runner decisive. He's explosive. Like I said, he's decisive. He is capable of flipping field position within a heartbeat. The kind of player who may only touch a ball a handful of times in a game and still, will swing the outcome. I think he wins routes by forcing defenders into bad leverage early. His release work is built on rapid feet, sudden tempo changes, and the ability to threaten both inside and outside without tipping his intentions. He's especially dangerous when he's given motion or free release. Once he's rolling, it's hard for corners to reattach. Through the stem, he understands how to lean, how to attack defender blind spots, and how to sell vertical, before snapping off underneath. He's not a pure technician yet, but the foundation is there. He sinks well enough. He doesn't drift widely out of breaks, and he's learning how to, pair his speed with his timing rather than just running fast, which I think is important. Think of like Andrew Schwartz for the Browns. Just somebody who was that Anthony Schwartz. I even forgot his name. Yeah, somebody who was overdrafted, not very good, and was just Olympic style speed, but couldn't do anything else. This guy is not that. He has a lot of other attributes as well. Against man, his quickness and burst creates separation. Against zone, he's increasingly comfortable finding spots, soft spots, and staying available to the quarterback as well. For a player whose calling card is speed, I think his hands and tracking are quietly encouraging. He prefers to catch away from his body, presenting clean targets and, cushioning the ball with soft hands. On deep shot, he does do a good job of locating the ball early and, adjusting his stride to meet it without breaking rhythm, which I think is really important. He's not built to, dominate in heavy traffic or consistently muscle bigger defenders at the catch point, but he does compensate with timing, body control, and the ability to attack the ball before the defender can. I think that's important. Along the sideline, he shows solid awareness of his feet and boundary. After the catch, he secures the ball quickly and transitions into a runner with minimal wasted motion, which is critical given how often he's operating in space. I think he's one of the true speed threats in this class, guys. We're talking about Barian Brown here from LSU, the wide receiver. His first step is explosive. He's out of the blocks and into the defender's cushion before they're fully settled. Once he opens up, his long speed is rare. He can erase pursuit angles and force safeties to play deeper than they like. His short area quickness shows up in his ability to change the direction without losing much speed, especially on crossers, overs, and in breaking routes where he can bend and accelerate. His movement is smooth and coordinated, allowing him to transition from vertical to horizontal planes without looking disjointed. He's not a power player by all means, but his balance through light contact and his ability to stay upright after glancing blows make him dangerous in the open field. At the combine, Barian Brown showed in Indianapolis that he was built around pure speed, and he only did the two events, the 40-yard dash. Like I said, 4.4 40-yard dash, a time that immediately placed him among the fastest receivers in this class, and confirmed that long speed that forces defenses to play on their heels. He also did a 1.62 10-yard split, which was, I think, just as important, showcasing instant acceleration that lets him win leverage before a defender can get his hands on him. Projection-wise, I think he projects as a field-tilting weapon who can immediately change how defenses structure their coverage. In the right offense, one that leans onto motion, onto stacks, bunches, and vertical spacing concepts. He can step in early as a high-impact wide receiver too, even if he's not, the volume alpha. His speed forces the cushion. His ability to uncover quickly gives the quarterback a built-in outlet, and his threat after the catch adds a layer of stress to every single snap. As his release package continues to expand, and his intermediate route detail lightens up, he has the potential to become more than just a gadget or shot play specialist. He's the kind of player who may never lead the league in targets, but absolutely can be the reason a defense sleeps poorly, the night before a game. So.
Okay. Wow. So I want to hear your one defense for why he's in your top 5, because I feel like that is absolutely very high and a lot higher than a lot of other people who are even high on Barian Brown would probably rate him. So what makes him in your top 5?
I think the combination of speed and his ability in open space make him a great prospect that translates to the NFL. And like I said, he might not be the biggest guy, but his can contest his catch. He's great with leverage. I think all those translate really well for me. It was close. It was pretty close, but he ended up number 5 for me. Wow. Between 5 and 15, they were all pretty close.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Because there's a lot of wide receivers who are really close, I'm sure. But that's interesting because he's my wide receiver 36.
That's
so I had to ask. I think when I was writing down all these notes, I think you actually got his height wrong because at the combine he came in at 5'11", and so 2 inches shorter than what.
I wrote this a little while ago. So
no, you're good. And then his weight's also pretty low. I would like to see him get a little bit heavier. He's 177, so it's a pretty light frame. But you're right. He's speedy. He's got a good deep threat. He's also good on a lot of like those in breaking routes that you talked about. Very good at that. And when he's in open space, he's electric. Not only do we see that when he's like getting those screen passes, jet sweeps, whatever, but as a returner as well, he's got a lot of talent. And I think that's something that's going to actually appeal more to him in the draft. than it will in like fantasy football. But I do think that there is space for him to be very competitive on a roster this year. But besides that, that was really about it. I don't think he's going to be a good threat in the contested catch zones. I don't think he's going to be a good red zone target. Like getting him in open space, he'll be good.
I mean, it just depends on packages, like I said.
Oh,
I mean,
for sure. In coaching and yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, if they have him, short intermediate routes, crossers across the field, jets, stuff like that, he can absolutely, play well in the red zone. But he's more of a vertical guy who's going to sit in windows. So
yeah. And so my comp that I have for him is Bo Melton, another wide receiver.
I hate it.
Oh, but yeah, somebody who also was just kind of a speed guy coming out. I think he really got a poor landing spot when he got drafted. And his career just kind of never went anywhere because of it. But I think a good fit for a Barry and Brown is a team where they've already got like an alpha established. And they're kind of needing like that speed type of a wide receiver, but also like a returner who can be very impactful for that team. And so I picked the Cincinnati Bengals. They've got a good number 1 in Jamar Chase. They've also got a pretty good number 2 in T. Higgins. And so if either of them miss time, he can step in as that wide receiver too. But he could be that really good deep threat option that honestly Joe Burrow's never had. And could be a really good option for them in the return game and both punt and kickoff as well.
I like that one a lot, especially when they cut Jermaine Burton, their former second round pick who never panned out. So I do. I think Barry and Brown as the Bengals wide receiver 3 would be insane. So.
It would be really good. So yeah, I think that's an ideal landing spot, and we'll see what happens. I like 36 for me is not really that low. Like I think there's a ton of wide receivers that could get drafted this year. Yeah. And so I would not be surprised if he's.
And I'm not saying Barry just because he's my top in my top 5. I mean, he's not going to be a first round pick. He's probably going to be a day 3 pick. I'm not worried about where he's drafted. I'm worried about how his traits translate to the NFL. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, shall we jump on to number 2?
Do it, brother.
Number 2.
I like that little ditty. Number 2 wide receiver for week 2 covering wide receivers. Jacoby Lane, wide receiver out of USC. He is my wide receiver 4.
4. Okay.
Unofficial numbers here because I did not write these down after the combine. 6'4", 3.5, 200 pounds. I have him. 4.47 40 time. I think that is official from the combine.
Mm-hmm.
Jacoby Lane, brings a rare blend of height, reach, and coordinated movement that fits in, the modern perimeter prototype for the NFL. 6'4", long arms, massive hands. He naturally expands the strike zone for the quarterback and gives any offense, a true above the rim option. His frame is built for boundary work, long enough, to win late, strong enough to hold his line, and fluid enough to stay in phase through complex route pass. Lane fits the mold of a big Z or X hybrid who can threaten vertically, operate on deep intermediate concepts, and punish mismatches with size and body control. He arrived at USC as a tall multi-sport athlete whose basketball roots show up immediately in his timing, evaluation, and spatial instincts. Early on, he was more of the flashes and traits player. Someone who could make a spectacular play, but was still learning the finer points of spacing and leverage. Over time, his game matured. He became more of a disciplined player with his stems, more intentional with his releases, and more consistent with his physicality as well. A lot of his coaches routinely talked about his quiet competitiveness. He just put his nose down and went to work. His unwillingness to absorb coaching, and his ability to rise to the moment when the offense needs a play. His development arc points to a player who is still climbing and still unlocking new layers of his game. I think he plays with a smooth gliding style that fits well with his size. He builds speed through long, efficient strides, forcing corners to respect the vertical threat, even when he's not running at full throttle. His ability to track the ball is one of his defining traits by far. He finds it early. He's great at adjusting. He never loses balance, and finishes with strong, confident hands. Thrives on deep intermediate routes. great with side leg concepts and, situations where he can use his frame to dictate the catch point, because he's a big boy. Think of, rebounding in basketball. He's not, a jittery mover, but he's controlled, coordinated, and consistently in command of his body. When the ball is in the air, he plays, like he expects to win every single time. He separates through rhythm and stride manipulation in the understanding of how to attack leverage. His release package is built around patience and length. He avoids giving defenders a clean shot, uses subtle footwork and to stay balanced, and works into his stem with purpose. Once he is rolling, he is difficult to disrupt because he maintains his lines and forces corners to react into his pacing, which I think is important. His breaks are cleaner than most receivers, his size for sure. He sinks well enough into his hips to stay connected to the route and doesn't drift widely out of transitions. Against man, he wins with timing and body positioning, and then against zone, he settles naturally into windows and presents a large, steady target. I think his ball skills are a major selling point. His hands are strong and absolutely deliberate. He extends confidently. Like I said, he attacks that ball early, and he rarely lets it get into his chest. He's going to snatch it, dude. His tracking ability is outstanding. He can adjust late. His frame allows him to shield a lot of defenders just by throwing his butt in the way, and he maintains control through contact. In contested situations, he plays with poise and balance, using his length and timing to win battles that many receivers simply can't do. Along the boundary, he shows disciplined footwork and an innate sense of where he is on the field. After the catch, he secures the ball and transitions to a runner relatively smoothly, I would say, as well. His athleticism is built around stride and power, fluidity and coordinated movement rather than pure twitch. His 4.47 40 and 1.58 split confirm the long speed and early acceleration that show up on tape. A lot of people were surprised by his speed. I was not. I saw on tape. It takes a minute for him to get going, but once he gets going, that is a freight train. His 40-inch vertical, 10'9" broad jump, validate his lower body explosiveness as well. His combine performance was one of the most important checkpoints of his evaluation. He had delivered across the board, I would say. 6'4" and 3/8, 200 pounds. All those numbers already said. I think it's because he participated fully in the athletic testing and his numbers align cleanly with his movement skills that show on film. I think his performance helped him solidify, him as one of the most intriguing size speed receivers in this class. I think he projects as a perimeter playmaker who can step into an NFL offense immediately, provide size, vertical stress, and reliable boundary production as well. His combination of length, ball skills, and stride efficiency make him a natural fit for deep intermediate concepts, layered structures, timing-based throws outside the numbers. I think early in his career he should thrive as a matchup-driven Z who forces defenses to account for his catch point ability and vertical presence. But as he continues to refine his release package and additional strength, I think Jacoby Lane has the potential to grow into a high-volume coverage tilting receiver. It becomes a central piece of NFL passing attack. I think he absolutely can be a wide receiver one.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I really like Jacoby Lane. He's somebody who I feel like is flying under the radar for a lot of teams and a lot of,
and because he was overshadowed by Mekhi Lemon as well.
Exactly. So, yeah. Yes. But I don't think there's that much of a separation really between Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. I have him as my wide receiver.
Go ahead.
I have him as my wide receiver 18, which really is not that low. Like
I have Lemon as 3 and Jacoby Lane is 4. So that's where I have. Yeah. So
but he's a big body receiver. He's very physical. Like you mentioned, that basketball type of a player. I call him a jump baller because he's going to high point that ball, snatch it out of the air, and hold on to it. He's got very strong hands. I think an area where he can grow in as he develops in the NFL would be the yak, yards after catch. He's good when there's open space. I think sometimes though he's not good at making people miss. And so working on being able to maybe plant his foot in the ground, step one way, and get people to miss, he'll be really, really good after that.
Yeah.
I got my comp for him right now as a Keon Coleman, but I think his upside is a lot better and stronger than a Keon Coleman.
I agree.
His physicality though is very similar. The way that he high points the football is really similar. The way that he can like really be a good jump baller in the red zone is really, really helpful. But yeah, I think that there's a lot more to him than just that as well. And so the ideal landing spot that I have for him would be Jacksonville Jaguars. We've all heard all offseason that Travis Hunter is going to focus on cornerback. Parker Washington came in last year and did really well. They got in Jacoby Myers. He did really well. But besides that, and they don't know what they're doing with BTJ either. Brian Thomas Jr. There's rumors that he could be traded. They're not really too sure about it. So there's a lot up in the air in that wide receiver room. And I think that Jacoby Lane could come in, be that wide receiver 3, maybe 4, learn for a year, maybe even have like somewhat of a redshirt year in the NFL. But long term, that would be really helpful for him in his growth. Develop his skills, learn behind some people, while still getting an opportunity to catch the ball in a very pass-heavy offense. And I think that he could really, really thrive at a place like that.
You're killing me. I would hate that for him. Bring him to the Browns. He'll be the wide receiver 1 and ball out.
Honestly, he probably would be because our wide receivers are not good.
Over Jerry Jeudy, let's be real.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, let's move on to the next one, brother.
Number 3.
Number 3.
All right, welcome back to the Brady Bunch.
I like that one.
That was a good one. All right, number 3, wide receiver for week 2, Zachariah Branch, wide receiver out of Georgia. He is my wide receiver 9, 5'9", 177 unofficial, 4.35 40 time. I think that is official. Zachariah Branch plays with a compact, very electric frame, built for roles that demand sudden movement and instant acceleration. 5'9", little less than 180. He, carries a tightly wound build that allows him to redirect without losing balance and explode out of breaks with rare efficiency. His arm length isn't necessarily super imposing, but his hands are quick. They are sure, and they are consistent. Zachariah Branch fits the mold of a modern slot Z hybrid, a motion-driven space weapon who thrives in systems that prioritize leverage manipulation, horizontal stress, and quick hitting concepts. He's not designed to win through size. He wins by forcing defenders into uncomfortable positions from the moment the ball snapped. Branch entered college football as one of the most dynamic athletes in the country, flashing elite return ability and instant playmaking juice at USC before transferring to Georgia this past year. His track background sharpened his acceleration mechanics, and his return experience refined his vision, his timing, and the ability to navigate in tight spaces. At both programs, his coaches praised his maturity, his willingness to take on complex assignments, and his ability to elevate the spacing of an offense simply by being on the field. His developmental across 2 major programs reflects a player who understands how to prepare, I think how to adapt, and how to maximize his athletic gifts within a structured system. Branch plays with a level of twitch and urgency that immediately changes the geometry of a defense. His first step is incredibly violent. Defenders are forced to open their hips early, way earlier than they want to, and once he has leverage, he's nearly impossible to recover against. His ability to vary tempo, snap off breaks, and accelerate out of transitions make him a nightmare to mirror in space as well. With the ball in the air, he's controlled and confident. He tracks pretty naturally, adjusts late, and finishes with decently soft hands as well. After the catch is where he is an absolute problem. He's a menace. His balance, his burst, his spatial instincts allow him to turn routine touches into incredibly explosive gains. He's the type of player who doesn't need volume to impact the game at all. He separates through suddenness, precision, and advanced understanding of how to manipulate leverage. His release package is built on very rapid footwork, sharp angle changes, and the ability to avoid clean contact with ease. Through the stem, he's disciplined. He presses just long enough to force a defender to commit right before snapping his breaks off, with violent efficiency. His transitions are crisp, compact, and controlled, allowing him to stay connected to the route without drifting. Against man coverage, he wins with quickness and timing. Against zone, he finds voids, quickly and stays available to the quarterback without, crowding other routes. His separation skill is one of the most translatable traits in this class, I would say. Zachariah Branch's hands are steady and reliable, I would say. He extends naturally, catches cleanly. He rarely double clutches. His tracking ability is impressive for his size. He can locate that ball early. While he's not built for contested catch dominance, he compensates with decent timing. He's got to have good body control and the ability to attack the ball before the defender can. Just because of his sudden twitchiness, he can also just snatch the ball out of the air. Along the sideline, he shows disciplined footwork and awareness. After the catch, he secures the ball quickly and transitions into a violent runner. Very fun. He's got immediate verse, making him dangerous on screens, crossers, motion-based touches, stuff like that. I think he's one of the most explosive movers in this class. He had a 4.35 40 and a 1.5 split, which absolutely confirm his elite acceleration and top end speed that show up on tape. His vertical 38 inches, especially for a 5'9" guy, shows that he can get up there just as much as anyone else as well. And a decent broad jump at 10'5" too. He really showed off at the combine. I think his performance solidified him as one of the most dynamic athletes in this class and probably reinforced his projection of a high impact space weapon at the next level. Some people are saying he can even fall into the late first round, which is interesting. There's a lot of guys like that, I think. So, Zachariah Branch projects as a dynamic, high usage slot Z weapon who can immediately evaluate an NFL offense with the separation skills, his acceleration, and an open field creativity. His ability to uncover quickly makes him a natural fit for rhythm-based passing games, while his explosiveness adds a vertical and horizontal stress element that defines defenses must account for on every single snap. I think early in his career, he should thrive on motion packages, RPO structures, quick hitting concepts that maximize his burst. As he continues to refine his route inventory and expand his intermediate usage, I think he has a potential to become, a featured offensive piece, a player who consistently, moves the chains, creates explosive plays, and forces defensive coordinators to adjust for him just being on the field. I'm excited about him. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I really like him too. He's my wide receiver 11. But yeah, everything that you talked about, he's speedy, he's shifty, he's like a human joystick, can contort his body however he wants to, juke people out of their shoes, like very, very, very good. He's also really good, like with the yards after the catch. I labeled him as the Yak King for this draft class because he's just so good once you get him in open space and those small crossers and those quick screens.
He's so twitchy, man. He's
just so twitchy and so slippery too. Like he's really good. I like him. A little concerned about his size and stature, but I think we've seen enough smaller wide receivers translate now to the NFL that I think he'll be fine. And the player that I have him comped to is pretty much, I feel like, very similar, almost identical, especially their combine stats and everything. And that would be Zay Flowers for the Ravens. Very twitchy, very speedy, 5'9" as well. I think Zay Flowers was a little heavier than Zachariah Branch was, but still very twitchy, very speedy, can juke people out and break their routes really well and create that separation, and have strong hands. I think Branch's hands are actually better than Zay Flowers, so I think there's a higher ceiling for him for sure. So the ideal fit that I have for him for fantasy football, honestly, his career as a whole, would be the Las Vegas Raiders. I would love to see the Raiders at the start of the second round, maybe trade up into the first round to get Zachariah Branch. I think he's somebody who can be a really helpful player for that rookie quarterback that they're going to draft first overall. Get him on those quick screens, get him on those jet sweeps, get him on those short crossing routes, just dump it down to him and let him create those space and yards after the catch. He's going to be really, really explosive in that and could force his way to become the wide receiver 1 for that offense. Obviously, you have other players like a Brock Bowers who would be really good, but I think because they have Bowers, they can use him to create that separation and space for Zachariah Branch to come in underneath and create that space for him to run. And so I really like that fit a lot. I think he could just be a very pass-dominant PPR machine coming into next year. And so I think whoever lands as a wide receiver in Vegas, the room's kind of wide open. And I think somebody like Zachariah Branch could take it and just run with it.
I can see that. I don't mind it, especially with JT also, making defense focusing on the run game or catch out of the backfield as well. So
yeah. Ideally, I think the Raiders have a great chance here to fix a lot of things, get their quarterback, get a wide receiver, get some offensive line with all the rest of their picks and move forward. Like they can turn this around pretty quickly.
Not to mention they have Tyler Linderbaum now, the highest paid center in the NFL by far. So
yep, and they're keeping Max Crosby now, so the defense isn't
good for them.
Awful.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be bad, but it's gonna be a little better. So
yeah. All right, you ready for number 4?
Number 4.
Yeah, I feel like that's a classic 80s sitcom one. I kind of like it.
It's great. I love it. Number 4, wide receiver number 4 for week 2 for the wide receiver coverage. Elijah Surratt, wide receiver out of Indiana. He is my wide receiver 10. An official 6'2.5", 210 pounds. No official 40 time because he did not do it in the combine. Elijah Surratt brings a steady, imposing frame built for physical demands out of boundary football. 6'2", 210. He carries a dense build with long arms and a broad reach. Giving him naturally expanded catch radius and the ability to win late in the rep. His hands are big. They're strong. They allow him to pluck the ball confidently and finish through contact. I think he fits the mold of a true outside receiver, an X or a big Z who thrives in isolation routes, intermediate timing concepts, and contested catch situations. His game leans on power, balance, and controlled movement rather than finesse or twitch. His path is one of the more unique journeys in this class. He began his career at St. Francis in Pennsylvania, where he dominated the FCS competition with size, toughness, and consistent, production. Then he transferred to Indiana, where was proving a ground moment, a chance to show he could translate his game into against Big Ten defenders. He didn't just hold his own. He became one of the most reliable perimeter threats in the conference, I would say. Coaches rave about his maturity, his willingness to embrace physical play, and his ability to elevate the receiver room with his work habits. His basketball background also shows up in his timing, his ability to shield defenders. A lot of these outside receivers, most of them have a background in basketball, so they're great at boxing out, shielding defenders. He is comfort in operating in tight spaces as well. His growth across 2 levels of competition reflect a player who's earned every step of his rise. I think he plays with a rugged downhill style that immediately stands out. He's a receiver who welcomes contact, not just at the catch point, but throughout the entirety of his route. He uses his frame to dictate leverage, carve out space, and stay on schedule even when defenders try to disrupt him. His ability to win slants, body defenders on digs, and finish through hits make him a natural fit for boundary work as well. He's not at all the jittery mover like Zachariah Branch or Barry Brown, but he is absolutely controlled. He's balanced, and consistently in command of his frame, which I think is important. Some guys, they have all the height and weight, but they can't control themselves. He has great control. Yeah. When the ball's in the air, he plays with conviction. He's going after that ball. He's going to attack it. He's going to secure it even if there is contact, and he rarely loses a contested rep that he should win. I think he creates separation through physicality, pacing, and disciplined technique. His release package is built around strength and timing. He uses forceful hands and man, I'm sorry. I have a newborn. I am so tired, guys.
You're all right, man.
He uses forceful hands and that help him clear press, keep his base stable, and establish leverage early. Through the stem, he leans into defenders, manipulates their hips, and forces them to react with, to his stride rather than dictating the rep themselves, which I think is also important. He breaks. His breaks are more efficient than sudden. He sinks well for his size and stays connected to the route without drifting. Against man coverage, he wins with positioning and late separation. Against zone, he settles into windows with patience and presents a large, steady target. I think his hands are absolutely the most dependable part of his game. He, extends naturally. He catches cleanly. They're very soft. And he rarely allows the ball to go to his chest as well. His tracking ability is excellent, very excellent. He is going to find that ball early. He's going to go get that ball, and he's going to catch it most of the time, even if it's contested. He plays with poise and physicality, using his frame to shield defenders, box them out, and secure those tough catches. His athleticism is built around, stride power, balance, and functional burst. He's not a pure speed merchant, but he does accelerate well enough to threaten vertically when he wins early in the rep. His short area quickness is better than expected for his size. He can maintain control through tight transitions and doesn't lose his base when redirecting. And his body control is an absolute standout trait, especially in contested situations where he adjusts midair and maintains structure through contact. He only did the measurements at the combine, 6'2.5", 210 pounds, 10, all that stuff, but he didn't do any of the actual like running or anything like that. He's going to do his pro day, and we'll have to wait for that for a complete athletic profile. But his measurements alone reinforce what shows up on film. He's a strong physical perimeter receiver with the frame to handle NFL boundary assignments. I think he projects as a physical boundary-oriented receiver who can step into the offense in the NFL and immediately contribute as a chain-moving X or a big Z. I think his combination of size, toughness, and catch point of reliability make him a natural fit for timing-based systems, most intermediate concepts, and red zone isolation routes. I think he would be really good in the red zone in the NFL. In his career, he should thrive as a dependable perimeter receiver who handles the dirty work, slants, digs, back shoulders, passes, contested throws. As he continues to refine, his pacing and expand his vertical route inventory, I think Elijah Surratt has the potential to grow into a matchup-driven starter who consistently wins through strength, balance, and his competitive edge. So.
Yeah, I actually love Elijah Surratt. He is somebody who I was raving about at the end of college football season last year, and I know you and I have talked about that plenty of times. What wide receiver was he ranked on your board?
He was 9, I think. Let me check. 10, sorry.
10. Okay, yeah, he's my number 8. Like okay. I love the dude. He's so good. His size, as you mentioned, is really good, being 6'2", 210. The best part of his game, as you mentioned, were his hands. He has, I think, the most elite hands and the elite catching out of any receiver this draft. It doesn't matter if that guy's glued onto him, if he's getting beat up from a safety, like he's going to catch the ball. He's a really good route runner. He knows, like when you said timing, he knows when to be at the spot and ready to catch the ball. And he's a smart player. Like he knows when to like lean into somebody to create separation. He knows when to go crack down on a block in a run game. Like he's not afraid to get dirty, and he knows how to win. He's not a field stretcher by any stretch of the imagination. He's not going to be the fastest guy. He's not going to burn people, but he's going to use his body and use timing to create space to get open. And it's going to be really, really good for any team that gets him, I think, next year. The comp that I have for him, I haven't really seen anybody compare him to this, but Keenan Allen, I think, is a good comp for him. It's somebody who's got a bigger body, maybe not the biggest, but somebody who just has the hands, the toughness, and the knowledge to know where to be at to create that open space and get the quarterback an easy completion. Keenan Allen's been doing this for decades.
Yeah. If he has Keenan Allen's career, that's a success. So.
That's a huge success. And I think that the potential's there, and maybe to even be a little bit better. Somebody who could still break away from a tackle or two, like Keenan probably did back in his younger days. And so I think that would be such a helpful wide receiver to have for any quarterback in the NFL, but especially for some younger ones. Like, oh, hey, I know that if I'm going to throw it to Elijah Surratt, he's going to catch it, just like Keenan Allen was for Justin Herbert his first couple of years in the league. And so my ideal landing spot for him, I know that we're going to say, oh, we talked about this team last week, but the Cleveland Browns. Actually,
David, you're so biased. Oh, my gosh.
Let me explain myself. So last week, I mentioned somebody else would be a great landing spot for the Cleveland Browns. The Browns, in all honesty, need to take at least 2 wide receivers this draft. They are desperate for playmakers at that position. They literally have nobody. I mean, yes, Jerry Jeudy had one flash in the pan last year where he was kind of good. Congratulations. So happy for all your success.
Not last year, 2 years ago.
You're right, 2 years ago. Thank you. And so there's a young player in Isaiah Bond who's got some speed and some playmaking ability, but they really need somebody who can come in, be like the dominating, reliable weapon for whoever quarterbacks our team next year. And I think somebody like an Elijah Surratt and Jordan Tyson, who I mentioned last week, could really be a great combo for this offense. Surratt's going to give you the reliable catching ability. Jordan Tyson's going to give you that big playmaking ability. And then you have those other players around him. And so I think that combo could be really, really good for the Browns. And both of those guys could eat. So I think fantasy-wise, they'd be fine. But, yeah, the Browns really need to address this position badly this year in the draft.
You're not wrong.
It's embarrassing, honestly.
Yeah, I've been a Browns fan my whole life. It's always embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go on to number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5. That's funny. All right, number 5 receiver for week 2, going over receivers for the rookie class. Chris Bell, wide receiver out of Louisville. He is my wide receiver 11, 6'1" and 7/8, 222 pounds. No official 40 time due to the fact that he tore his ACL on November 22nd against SMU. It was a clean tear, and surgery was in early December. Chris Bell, I love Chris Bell, David.
I also love
Chris Bell's tape. Oh my gosh. He brings a dense, powerful frame that immediately stands out among this receiver class. Like I said, 6'2", 222 unofficially. He carries the kind of build that defensive backs feel the moment he initiates contact. His wingspan and hands size give him a naturally expanded strike zone, and his frame allows him to shield defenders with ease. I think he fits the mold of a modern big body hybrid, a player who can function as an X or on the boundary, or slide inside as a physical matchup driven slot. His game is rooted in strength, leverage, and the ability to impose his will on smaller defenders. He arrived at Louisville as a raw but imposing athlete with a multi-sport background that sharpened his coordination and timing. Early in his career, he was more of a traits-based projection, a big physical target who needed refinement and conditioning, pacing, and route detail. But over time, he transformed into one of Louisville's most reliable weapons, embracing a hybrid role that allowed him to attack mismatches inside. Inside and outside. Coaches consistently talked about his toughness, his leadership presence, and the willingness to handle the gritty assignments that many receivers avoid. His ride to steady was steady, and it was earned. It was positioned him as one of the most physically intimidating receivers in this class. He is a mean SOB, brother. He plays with a bruising style, downhill style that immediately changes the tone of a rep. He thrives in crowded areas, using his frame to carve out space and maintain control through contact. His ability to win slants, body defenders on any intermediate route, and finish through hits makes him a natural fit for possession-based roles. He's not a finesse mover. He's a bully who understands how to weaponize his size. When the ball's in the air, he plays with conviction. He attacks the catch point and secures the ball. He's got strong hands. After the catch, I think he runs like a tight end. He's decisive, he's physical, and he's difficult to bring down, which is a great thing that translates to the NFL.
Absolutely.
I think he creates separation through physicality, pacing, and disciplined technique rather than twitch or suddenness. His release package is built around power. He uses his hands to clear press, maintains a sturdy base, and establishes leverage early. Through his stem, he leans into defenders, manipulates their balance, and forces them to react to his stride. His breaks are efficient for his size as well. He can sync well, stay connected to his route, and doesn't drift unnecessarily as well. Against man coverage, he wins with strength and late separation, and against zone, he finds soft spots and presents a absolutely massive bruising target. His hands are one of the strongest components of this game. We talked about Elijah Surratt's hands being probably the best in this draft class. His are up there as well. Oh, yeah. He extends confidently. He has clean catches. His tracking ability is impressive. He can also locate that ball early. In contested situation, he plays with poise and physicality, using his frame to not just shield defenders. He just maybe sometimes he might even be called because he's so physical as he goes up for that ball. But he is going to get that ball. And like I said, he transitions quickly into a runner, and he protects the ball and stays upright through contact. His combine, he did not obviously do anything other than just get all of his measurements because of the ACL tear. But no 40-yard dash, no jumps, no Jody Jones, nothing like that. But so we have to rely on his tape, and his tape is fun to watch. Like I said, he did tear his ACL during the SMU game. Had surgery in December. Before the injury, though, he was trending towards a first-round consideration thanks to his production, his physical profile, and his versatility. The injury, introduced uncertainty into his draft range, obviously, but teams remain intrigued by his upside, especially, given a clean, nature of the tear and, his strong pre-injury resume as well. So as long as everything heals up fine, he should not have a problem, going into probably late next year or into 2027. I think he projects as a physical matchup-driven receiver who can step into an NFL offense, and when he's healthy, immediately contribute as a chain-moving X or a big slot. His combination of size, toughness, and catch-point reliability makes him a natural fit for all timing-based systems. Great in the red zone concepts, and most intermediate possession routes as well. Early he should thrive in roles that require strength, leverage, and the ability to win through contact. As he continues to refine his pacing and expand his vertical route inventory, and he returns to full health, which hopefully he does, he has the potential to grow into a dependable starter who brings physicality, to the passing game. So.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. I think if it wasn't for the injury, there's a strong consideration if he finished his season well to be the wide receiver 1 in this draft.
I don't know about 1, but he'd probably be top 5 for sure.
His tape was so good.
It was fun to watch.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Tall, fast, shifty. He's really good after the catch. And I think the big thing is he's just a boomer bust type of a prospect. He's either going to be an elite wide receiver, or he's just not going to be somebody who transitions well to the NFL.
I believe.
I believe in him. But yeah, I think a good comp for him would be a Chris Godwin. You talk about a big wide receiver who is really fast, good after the catch, very strong and steady hands, somebody who can be relied upon. I think there's a lot of similarities there. They run really well. They've both had knee injuries. There's just a lot of similarities. And so I like the way that he plays the game. I like the way he catches the ball. I think a team for him for the best landing spot would be a team where he can have some time to transition back from the surgery and the injury and not necessarily need to step in right away in week 1 to be a immediate impact player. So somewhere where he's not going to necessarily need to be the alpha right away. And that team would be the Seattle Seahawks, I think.
I like that one.
Yeah, if they can get him in the second round, that would be really, really nice for them. The Seahawks, they obviously have Jackson Smith-Njigba. And so if they can somehow sneak Chris Bell onto their team in the draft, let him sit. Honestly, give him the first 5 weeks, maybe even not play, and just heal up. They'll do their thing, and he could be a huge, impactful player for them come late in the season when they're trying to make that playoff push again with Sam Darnold. I think that he could be really, really well in that system, be a really, really good wide receiver too, and be somebody that Sam Darnold throws a lot of touchdowns to.
Now, do you think he would be wide receiver 2 over what is it? Is it Rashid Shaheed? Am I thinking of who just resigned, and then Torrey Horton as well?
Yes, I do think he would eventually become the wide receiver 2. But it would be a nice rounding out of that wide receiver room for that team.
There you go. All right. Yeah, I don't mind it.
All right.
I really like Chris Bell. It's unfortunate he tore his ACL so late, or in general, but nonetheless, his tape is a lot of fun to watch. You guys should go watch it. So.
The potential is definitely there. So, all right. Let's
go last receiver.
Number 6.
Number 6.
That was so happy, and you're about to be so pissed.
Oh, no.
Number 6 wide receiver for week 2, Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver out of Indiana. My wide receiver, 26.
26. Wow.
Number 26.
Okay. I'm also a little bit lower on him, but not 26 number.
Okay. Where do you have him?
I got him number 9. Still top 10, but definitely I don't.
A lot of guys want him at pick 24, which is crazy for the Browns. But nonetheless, I will explain my reasoning why I have him so low. He's 6 foot and a half, 196 pounds, ran a 4.4 240. Omar Cooper Jr. brings a compact, balanced frame built for roles that emphasize timing, precision, and short area separation. At over 6 foot, 196, he carries a sturdy build with enough length and function on the perimeter, but not enough to consistently dominate outside matchups. His hands are reliable, his wingspan is functional, and his movement profile fits the mold of a modern slot Z hybrid. Someone who wins with pacing, footwork, and feel rather than overwhelming physical traits. Omar Cooper's archetype is of that of a rhythm-based separator who thrives in short and intermediate areas of the field. He arrived at Indiana with the reputation for polish and maturity, and he lived up to that right away. His multi-sport background sharpened his footwork and balance, and his understanding of route structure made him a natural fit in Indiana's timing-heavy offense. Coaches consistently praise his professionalism, his attention to detail, and his ability to stay on schedule within the concept as well. His rise in the Big Ten was built on consistency and nuance rather than highlight real explosiveness. He enters the draft as one of the more refined route technicians in the class, but also as a player whose role in stealing, must be evaluated through the lens of his physical profile. Cooper plays with a smooth rhythmic style that allows him to uncover in tight spaces and stay friendly to the quarterback. His pacing is deliberate. He changes speed with intention, uses subtle head fakes and manipulation leverage, and maintains balance through transitions. He's at his best, working in the middle of the field where his spatial awareness and timing allow him to consistently present clean windows. After the catch, he's decisive and he's tough, using compact frame to slip through contact and generate extra yards. He's not a vertical field tilter, but he's a reliable chain mover who understands how to operate within structure. His separation skill comes from technique rather than raw athleticism, I think. His release package is built on, quick, efficient footwork that helps him avoid clean jams, but he can struggle against corners who want to disrupt him with power. Through the stem, he's disciplined. He possesses, presses just long enough for to force a defender to commit before snapping off his brakes with balance and control. His transitions are crisp. He rarely drifts out of cuts. Against man coverage, he wins with timing and leverage manipulation. Against zone, he settles naturally into voids and maintains spacing without crowding other routes. His route craft is advanced, but his lack of vertical juice limits how much separation can generate down the field. I get he ran a 4.42. I do not see that speed on tape, though. I do not.
I agree.
In terms of his ball skills and catch technique, I think his hands are steady and trustworthy. He extends naturally, catches cleanly, and rarely double clutches. I think he's got decent tracking ability as well. He can locate that ball early, just like all these other top guys we're talking about, without compromising his balance. But I think his catch radius is limited. His shorter arms and average vertical explosiveness reduces margin for error in contested situation. Against longer corners, he can, be boxed out or forced into difficult angles. He competes at the catch point, but he's not built to consistently win above the rim. After the catch, he does transition quickly into a runner and protects the ball well, though. He tested well in straight line speed. Like I said, 4.4 240 and a 1.55 split that reflects his ability to build pace efficiently. I don't think he's a burner on the field. I did not see that at all. And, he doesn't have the kind of twitch that scares defenders off the line, but he is coordinated. He is balanced, and he is efficient in his movement. His athletic profile fits a player who wins with craft rather than raw traits. I think he is a beneficiary of the combine. I think that did help him out a lot, even though he didn't participate in the broad jump or agility drills. His testing did align relatively with tape other than the speed. Like I said, he is an efficient mover, a solid athlete, but not someone overwhelms defenders with raw physical traits. Why is he wide receiver 26 on my board? Okay. Evaluating wide receivers in my system isn't about production, recruiting pedigree, or, how the public views a player. It's about trait translation, the specific on-field abilities and consistency that hold up against NFL athletes. When I stack Cooper against the rest of this class using my rubric, the gap becomes clear. He's a good football player, yes, but the traits that drive NFL success simply don't show up at the same level as, most of the receivers above him. His vertical threat to play speed, I get he ran a 4.42 at the combine, and that's a great number. But I think he has functional speed on the field for sure, not stopwatch speed. On film, he does not play like a 4.42 athlete. He rarely pulls away from defenders on deep routes. Corners don't panic or flip their hips early against him. Safeties don't widen or deepen their alignment because of him. He struggles, to stack defenders once he gets even. In my rubric, vertical stress is a major driver and, driver of separation grade because it dictates how, defense allocate resources, and Cooper simply doesn't tilt coverage the way that a true top end athlete does. Secondly, I think his limited catch radius is a major flaw. That is a huge value in my rubric as well. 30 and 1/4 inch arms and a 75 inch wingspan are on the shorter end for NFL wideouts. That shows up on tape. He struggles to win above the rim. His margin for error on contested throws are much smaller than a lot of guys in this draft. Longer corners can smother him at the catch point. He doesn't consistently expand the strike zone for his quarterback. None of this makes him a bad receiver by any means, but it just taps his ceiling in roles that require winning outside the numbers, in my opinion. We can talk about his press coverage vulnerability, his route inventory that I think is not as efficient as well.
Agreed.
Indiana's offense is extremely RPO heavy, and I think that matters. A full my rubric rewards receivers with full intermediate route tree, timing based, perimeter concepts, NFL style stems and pacings, the ability to win outside, structure, and Omar Cooper's tape shows, a heavy diet of slants, glance routes, bubbles, quick hitters, limited exposure to deeper timing routes, minimal evidence of, consistent outside the numbers work, a role that, didn't demand full field versatility, and it's not necessarily his fault. It's a system he played in, but I think that affects his projection. I think his blocking and physical play is, not as great as well. For the, bottom line, he's my wide receiver 26. I think he is a polished, intelligent receiver. I think he's reliable, but my system is built to identify, NFL translatable traits, and the concerns I have carry real weight. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
No, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think that he's still athletic enough that I put him in my top 10, which is why I have him at number 9. Like, I still think he's
that 4.42 speed definitely shocked me at the combine.
Yeah, and I think he's fast. I don't think he's like I was surprised with the 4.42 as well.
Yeah, he's just not that
I don't think he's
that
fast.
Yeah.
He's not a burner. He's not somebody who's going to. I don't think he's a good like cutter on a route. Like, he's not good at planting and cutting very well to create separation. I think he's good at accelerating, which is not the same as having top end speed.
Sure.
But I think that there's some things that could make him a good wide receiver in the NFL. But I agree with you about the route running and the blocking. Like, it just seems like for all the reasons why I loved Elijah Surratt, his heart, his effort, his attitude is just all there. Those are the reasons why I'm not as high as on Omar Cooper Jr. His heart, his want to, his desire to get his nose dirty in plays and go block. Like, it's not there on tape. And so I had a hard time coming up with a good comp for him. But I put down Romeo Doubs as his comp. Somebody who's got a similar frame, may not have the best catch radius, but has good hands. Somebody who can be versatile though in the game. Won't just necessarily beat you the same way over and over again, but can be used to do some different things on offense. And so I think a good landing spot for Omar Cooper Jr., if we're talking fantasy football.
The Browns.
No. It would actually be the New York Giants. They've got a really good thing going on offense right now. Cam Skadaboo's a running back. They've got Malik Neighbors coming off of that injury. And they just had a hole that just got left by Wan'Dale Robinson going to the Tennessee Titans. And so I think somebody like an Omar Cooper Jr. could fit into that offense pretty quickly. Find some success early on, being the kind of, I guess, big body receiver that offense is kind of missing, and still be a good wide, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Sides of the field, X and Z. There it is. Okay. Receiver. Hey, I'm tired. But yeah, somebody who could just be a different change of pace for that wide receiver room. Still get on the field right away and still be really helpful in that offense.
I don't hate that, especially with the signing of Isaiah Likely. They have Theo Johnson there as well, so that could take away some heat from the wide receiver too. Well, there's two. So
yeah.
All right, those are our receivers, guys.
Yeah, round 2 of receivers.
Wow. Yeah. Real quick, I want to stress again that we are brought to you by the Inside Edge Network at Inside Edge Net, and also Alley Rose Fragrances. Our new network sponsor for the Inside Edge Network is Alley Rose Fragrances. Discover Alley Rose collection of handcrafted candles and body mists made with clean, minimal ingredients. Every product is thoughtfully created in small batches, free from harmful toxins, for mindful everyday indulgence. Head over to alleyrosefragrances.com now to order and use our special promo code InsideEdge20, capital I, capital E, to receive a special discount. We are also brought to you by Monster Moments Photography. They are a husband and wife wedding photography team based out of Cleveland who specializes in providing the best wedding photos in Northeast Ohio. Check out their website at monstermomentsphotography.com. That's MOSSOR momentsphotography.com. And real quick, again, if you are rocking with the show, guys, you like what we're doing, please do us a massive favor and hit on all of our socials. We're everywhere. We're on Twitter. We're now on TikTok and Instagram, thanks to David, at the Commissioner's Couch on all three. You can find us on Facebook under the Commissioner's Couch podcast. Every one of those pages has our website link pinned, thecommissionercouch.podbean.com. I'm sorry, it's running late. And that link takes you straight to our hub where you can find us on every single platform that you stream podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, Boomplay, the Podbean app, all of them. Click the platform that you use, please. Follow the show, subscribe, drop a 5-star rating, leave a review, turn on notifications, and set up, episodes to auto download. I know that's a lot, but even if you do some of those, that would help us so much. And please, again, follow us on all socials at the Commish Couch, and please definitely show us some love. Like
yes,
I said, even if you do a couple of those things, it would help us so much. And if you play fantasy football, if you just love the game, you're going to want to stay plugged in. Let me and David be your competitive edge all season. So just make sure you are tapped in, guys.
Yeah, we're going to help you win. So follow along.
We are. All right, guys. And that wraps up week 2 of our wide receiver evaluations. Season 2, week 4, episode 17 total. We are counting them up and keep climbing. This is a stretch where, of the board where things start to get really interesting. The part of the class where you find the role players who become, glue pieces, the matchup guys who carve out real careers, and the sleepers who end up outplaying the draft slot. These aren't the household names yet, but they're players who, fill out a room and give an offense its identity. We covered 6 very different profiles this week. Like I said, speed targets, big body chain movers, hybrid separators, and a couple guys who can tilt a game in their own unique way, I would say. And that's what makes this position so much fun to evaluate. There's no single blueprint at all. Every receiver wins differently, and every offense asks for something specific. My job is to figure out which traits actually carry over on Sundays, and this group gave us plenty to talk about this week. But we are not done, not even close. Next week we keep the momentum rolling with another 6 wideouts. We are going to do another week of wide receivers because, like I said, this class is fun. And this batch brings a completely different flavor. We're going to be diving into Malachi Fields from Notre Dame, a physical mover with size and a competitive edge. Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. He's a versatile athlete who can line up everywhere. Antonio Williams from Clemson, one of the cleanest separators in the ACC last year. Deion Burch from Oklahoma, a burst-driven playmaker with real vertical juice and a combine standout. Brennan Thompson from Mississippi State, track-level speed athlete with space game upside. And then Bryce Lance out of North Dakota State, a developmental outside receiver with very intriguing tools. 6 more players, 6 more completely different skill sets, 6 more chances to separate, traits that look good in college from traits that matter in the league, and 6 more chances for you to, gain an edge on your competitors in, your fantasy football leagues. So stick with us, because we, the deeper we go into this class, the clearer the picture becomes. And by the time we finish wide receivers, you're going to know exactly who fits where, who translates, and, who's just noise. Season 2 is settling in, it's stride. You can feel the rhythm of, this thing getting tighter every single week. I think our conversations are getting sharper, David. Our evaluations are getting, are definitely cleaner, and the board is, starting to take real shape. There's a momentum to stress of this season. There is momentum to stretch out the rest of the season. Let's just end this. Oh my God, I'm so tired. We're not just rolling the couch. I wrote this whole thing out, guys. The couch isn't just rolling. We're going into exactly what it's supposed to be, and we're only getting started. Huge thank you to my co-host David Cahoon. Follow him at David Cahoon 24. My name is Ryan Mosser. Follow me on Twitter at dynasties CLE. Thank you, guys. Yeah, we'll see you next week. I'm not sure if we'll be live. David might have a work event, so we might have to just do a pre-recorded episode and post it. But regardless, guys, we will make sure that next week we will have another 6 wide receivers up for you. Please go check us out on all socials. We've covered 2 weeks worth of quarterbacks, 12 total quarterbacks, 12 now receivers as well. And we're going to keep rolling. So thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
We will see you next week.